Keep that applause going for Kevin McGeehan. One more time, Kevin McGeehan. Right after high school, I was directionless. So I spent one semester at Florida Community College at Jacksonville, or as my friends and I called it, the 13th grade. My English class was taught by a little frumpy man in his 60s named Professor Robinson. He was very, very nice, but he spoke in this slow, upper register monotone that sounded like Hank Hill from King of the Hill, and I found him so boring that I never went to class on a consistent basis. Halfway through the semester, I got my act together, and I applied for and was accepted into the University of Florida. At the end of the current semester, knowing that I was now accepted to another school in the 13th grade didn't matter, I skipped Professor Robinson's class again and went to the beach, and I forgot my sunscreen that day. So when my mother got home that night and she saw my red skin, she asked me point blank, "Did you go to class today?" And I admitted that I had not. And then after a little prodding, I confessed that I had not been going consistently the entire term. She was furious, not only because I was wasting her money, in which this single mother did not have much, but she used to be an English teacher. And damn it, her son goes to English class. So, after a very eloquent guilt trip, she sat me down and she gave me the inside scoop on English teachers and how to work the system. English grades are essay-based. Therefore, they are subjective, malleable, and the grades are not final until you receive them in the mail. So she insisted that I go seek extra credit. So, on the last day of class, I begrudgingly stayed after to talk to Professor Robinson, and I went to his desk and I gave him this pitch. I just got accepted to the University of Florida, and I am very excited. I'd like to go in with good transcripts. I think I only have a C in this class. Is there any way I could do some sort of extra credit? Maybe write a paper? And he said, no, that's not his policy. And I said, thank you for your time. And then as I was about to leave, he said, are you going to the parking lot? And I said, yes, I am. And he goes, I'll walk with you. So we walk along the hallway and we start talking about the excitement of going to college, about all the new experiences you're going to have, all these different things. And then when we reach the end of the sidewalk, he turns to me and says, so this grade is kind of important to you? And I say, yes, it is. And he goes, well, I'd like to have sex with you. Let's back up. I would like to describe to you who he is looking at as he makes this bold proposition. I was a scrawny, insecure, red-faced virgin. I had long bangs, vicious acne, and 2 gold hoop earrings in this ear, both of them approved by and purchased by my mother. This was the first time anyone had ever asked me to have sex with them, and it was not going as I had hoped or imagined. But I had to answer him. So, I took a deep breath, and I looked him right in the eye, and I said to him the most honest sentence I have ever uttered in my life. I was kind of hoping I could just write something. He stared at me for an eternity, and then he said, never tell anyone about this. I nodded in agreement, and then he turned on his heels and was gone. And I stood there, and I was stunned. But I kept my promise to him. And I did not tell anyone else for 3 minutes. I ran to the first friendly face I saw, who was a woman who was 1 year ahead of me in high school, so she was currently enrolled in the 14th grade. And we sat in her car, and I told her, my professor has asked me to have sex with him, and I don't know what to do right now. She says, well, you do wear earrings. And then I say, what? And at the end, we make the conclusion that no matter how embarrassing it's going to be, I have to tell my mother that if I was going to fail this class because I sexually rejected my teacher, she needed to know that. So a few days later, after gathering up the courage at dinner, I told her everything that happened. And then she looked at me and she said, and I quote, was it your earrings? We decided we weren't going to do anything about it. We were going to just let this go. It was my word against his, and she conceded that if I did fail that class, so be it. The 13th grade doesn't matter. And she said that she was sorry she put me in that position, and she assured me she was no longer angry at me. A week later, I received my grades. And I'm happy to report that my mother was correct. English grades are malleable. Because I did not receive an F or the C that I had earned. I got an A. And I didn't even have to give up my D. Thank you very much.